think the important takeaway is we all need to do a better job of separating fruits from vegetables and which fruits and vegetables. We tend to lump them all together as if they're all the same, and they're not. I think there is clearly clinical data suggesting that more vegetable consumption as well as fruit consumption is important for non-communicable disease as well. So this was supply. That table was supply data. So it was what food groups are available to consumers. That was different from the previous graph, which was actual consumption data. And so we do need to tease those out. But my take-home point is that there are foods that do different things for different outcomes. And we need to be distinguishing more about what is the optimum diet for all people and for addressing all different kinds of nutrition outcomes.
So my 50-25-25 rule comes from working painstakingly with these DHS data, layered with data from living standards measurement surveys, layered with national data on infrastructure, layered with data on agricultural prices, layered with data on roads and bridges, layered with data from the satellite, layered with ground station rainfall data. And at the end of the day, if we try to observe as much as we can, right, I come back to the idea that generally speaking, we can sort of explain about 50% of the variation that we see from things that are happening that are observed at the child and mother level. Right? So birth order, birth weight, mother's nutritional status, vaccinations, education of the mother, things of that nature. If I were a policymaker, if I was in charge of line agencies, I think one place where I would begin is to think about if the goal is under 5 nutrition, that maybe the strategies need to align across those dimensions. But I think that's really speculation on my part, maybe conjecture based on the data work that I've done, but I'd be really interested in others' thoughts on that.
Let me just add that Jerry was very reticent to make that supposition, and I said, no, do it, go for this, and let's get it out there. Part of the different scales and the different disciplinary lenses and tools that we're using is to try and piece together the evidence that might support something like that. I think it would be valuable for the discussion on how to prioritize.
We have different scales of causal, perhaps, in this case, correlational relationships with the outcomes. As you get closer to the outcome that you're trying to measure, you would expect to find a more direct connection, and I completely agree with that. But at the end of the day, we can't explain everything based on what we observe at the child and mother level. There are some other things going on, and policymakers have an opportunity to have interventions at different scales.
I think that this speaks also to whenever you read a paper that tries to analyze whatever, DHS or the determinants of stunting, let's say, and you look at the tiny R-squared that comes out of very large data sets, that's what Jerry's talking about. Is what else is not being explained by those proximal measures that we do know, but actually explain it in a very small part of the variation.
What's going on in the background here? What's the basket of goods? What's driving the result? And what are we assuming about sort of home-produced, home-consumed goods versus the market basket that's acquired? I should point out, I'm almost certain that what led me to generate this figure was a conversation that we had 2 years ago at the webinar, where there was an interest in cost of diet issues, and so that kind of led us to go back and try to piece that together. I actually have a list of the food items that are in the basket. This chart is drawn under the assumption that one would source the entire basket in the marketplace. right? Because we're actually looking at market prices and trying to figure out what that implies for the cost of a nutritionally adequate diet. I have with me the list of the nutrients and the recommended daily amounts, as well as the commodities. Maize flour, millet flour, sorghum flour, rice, cassava, fresh cassava flour, matoke, beans, soybean, and groundnut. Those are the 10 commodities in fast. Potentially, right? Those are the ones that can be purchased to meet the requirement. They don't all end up in the fast.